goes out to check the GPS, and thanks to the vultures flying around, he finds Messer's body. And right as Raylan rolls up to find Messer's body, Dewey and Daryl roll up and see the coroner van and realize they got lucky. And they end up driving back to Audrey's instead of trying to find Messer, because they know that Messer's dead already.
Yeah.
And while all of this is happening, so basically Raylan leaves Tim behind with Boyd, tells Boyd he's not allowed to go anywhere. And Tim and Boyd play Scrabble. And we don't ever get a look at the Scrabble board. I tried to find like a still shot where you could see what was on the Scrabble board.
Yeah.
And I could not get one, but I want to see what's on that Scrabble board more than anything. Because I can only imagine what Tim and Boyd playing against each other at Scrabble are putting on the Scrabble board. It's got to be amazing stuff. So, while all this is going on, Art gets a call from his counterpart in Detroit. So he gets a call from the chief deputy in Detroit saying, hey, remember how you asked me about what happened that night with Nikki Augustine? I got somebody who might know something about that, but I think you got to come up here to get that information in person. And so Art decides he's going to go to Detroit, and he's going to talk to a Canadian mafia guy that they have in custody, the Will Sasso one, not the Dave Foley one. And the Will Sasso one tells Art that, you know what? I have a clip. I'll play it.
You the Kentucky guy?
I'm the Kentucky guy.
Well, the bluegrass state. Never been.
Not sure you're gonna get the chance looking at your jacket.
Well, it's my loss, I'm sure. So what do you want to know?
I want to know what happened on the tarmac outside Lexington the night Nikki Augustine was killed.
Look, like I told the last guy, it's all hearsay.
I don't care.
Well, in my dealings with the late, great psycho shithead Sammy Tonin, he told me a couple times that he had a Kentucky lawman in his pocket, or a lawman in Kentucky, one of the two, and that he was there the night he took out Nikki Augustine.
Continue.
That's all.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's up to Chief Kirkland, but I don't think that's going to get you back up north to your free health care.
Okay, look. If you want the full story, you have to talk to Picker. He was Sammy's right-hand man until he killed him.
Picker?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a first name, last name, or nom de guerre.
Is he still around here?
Your lucky day. I think, out of fear of what evil henchman Theo Tonin might still have hanging around, he's laying low in your neck of the woods with a man named Win Duffy.
Yeah. So Art hears that, and his radar goes off remarkably. like, wait a minute, Win Duffy? I know that guy.
How stiff is Art's Marshall Stiffy?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's at full mast.
Yeah,
in the trousers there. Like his dockers have the tent. Yeah. So a couple of things coming out of that conversation. First, Sammy Tonin bragged about having a Kentucky lawman in his pocket, which is terrifying. Especially when you consider that what we know as the viewers is that he means Raylan, and Raylan's not in Sammy Tonin's pocket by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. He's just kind of bragging about it. But then we also get Picker's name, and we also get Win Duffy's name. And so Art's Marshall Stiffy is definitely up. We also have a reference to a nom de guerre, because he doesn't know if Picker is his first name, last name, or nom de guerre. And that is our second word of the week this week.
You use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
A nom de guerre is an assumed name under which a person engages in combat or some other activity or enterprise. I didn't realize, but looking at it, nom de guerre, Guerre, of course, makes sense because that's war, essentially. And so it makes sense that it would be a name under which a person engages in combat. I never realized that pseudonym, it's a synonym for pseudonym, that a nom de guerre was kind of specific to combat. And I think it's been adapted over time to apply to some other activity or enterprise, but originally started, I guess, if you were a mercenary or whatever, you would call yourself a different name than your given name, because for obvious reasons, I guess.
What do you think the thing is, or do you think it was like a professional courtesy that the chief from Detroit, he was able to hear that conversation.
Yeah, he said that the intercom was broken.
Yeah. What do you think that is?
It's professional courtesy. It's letting Art solve his own problems as opposed to trying to do justice at all costs. Yeah. Like he assumes that Art has good intentions, and he's going to let Art handle it on his own. And you know what? I think where it really, the reason for it is because Art reached out to him first and said, "Hey, what do you hear about that tarmac thing?" Yeah. Because I don't think if Art had reached out to him first and he says, "Oh, he's got a Kentucky lawman in his pocket," if this guy would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna call Art and let him know about this." Yeah. I think it was only because Art reached out to him first that this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
So the other thing that he mentions is hearsay, and that's going to bring us to this.
Say hello to Miguel Sanchez.
It's what we call a law bomb.
That's a low blow, law blah. A blah, 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 law bomb.
That's why I want to settle. I'm not super prepared.
Oh, sure, like lawyers work in big skyscrapers and have secretaries. Look at him, he's wearing a belt. That's Hollywood for you.
I move for a bad court thingy.
You mean a mistrial?
Yeah. That's why you're the judge and I'm the law-talking guy.
The lawyer.
Right.
I object.
Did you add background music, or was that always there?
No, that was always there.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, that sounds like that's the first time I've heard it. Like the
royalty-free background music. So a couple things here. I'm going to talk about hearsay for a couple minutes. I'm going to try not to go too long because it can get really, really boring after a couple minutes. But hearsay, and despite what Lionel Hutz says, I wear a belt every day. So, so hearsay is something that's not admissible. It's evidence that's not admissible in court proceedings. And what is hearsay exactly? Hearsay is a statement that you're seeking to admit to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So in order to kind of, simplify what that means, I'll use an example. I tell Randy, "Hey, I saw that guy we know, Joe. I saw Joe kill a woman."
Guilty as charged.
Exactly. So I tell that to Randy. Randy can't now go to court and testify and say, "Hey, Chris told me he saw Joe kill that woman." And the reason for that, the reason that hearsay is generally not admissible is because it's not the best source of the evidence, and it tends to be unreliable, right? If you say, "Oh, I heard somebody told me this, somebody said this to me, I heard this from somebody," that from an evidentiary standpoint is not super high on the list of things that we deem to be reliable. And the basic evidence rule, the fundamental rule of evidence, is that something has to be more probative than prejudicial in order to be admissible. And in this case, the probative value of something that somebody heard somebody else say is not particularly high because it's not deemed to be reliable. So the basic rule is, if it's hearsay, it's not admissible. You have to have witnessed something for yourself to be able to testify to it in court. There are a lot of hearsay exceptions, a lot, because as you can imagine, having a rule that black and white that says, well, if you didn't witness it yourself, or if you more specifically, if you heard it from somebody else, you cannot testify to it, is a problem when you need to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, especially in a criminal case.
Sure.
And so there's a ton of hearsay exceptions. I'll only give a couple of them here just because I think they're relevant to what we're about to talk about. So there's something called admission against interest. So if I told Randy, hey, I killed that woman, then Randy would be able to testify and say, if they were prosecuting me for the murder of that woman, they could say, hey, he told me he killed that woman. Yeah. That, because I'm the one who said it, it's deemed to be more reliable because I'm talking about me. And it's something that I said out of court long before there was a lawsuit, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hearsay, but it falls into one of these exceptions. And so you can get that admitted. That's one broad exception to hearsay. A prior inconsistent statement, if you said something while testifying that differs from something you said previously, you can call a witness that says, hey, you said this person told you this on this day, did they not? And contradict what they're now saying as their testimony. So you can use it to impeach them as a prior inconsistent statement. You can say an excited utterance is something that is something that's admissible under a hearsay exception. So if you go, holy shit, he just shot that guy, right after it happened, and I heard somebody say that, I can testify in court and say, well, I heard him say that that person shot him. And you can use that as evidence to prove that that person shot him. And again, it's very important when you think about hearsay to think about the rule prohibits the evidence from coming in order to prove the truth of the matter asserted in the statement. So the statement cannot come in to prove the truth of that statement. If you want to use it to prove something else, or you want to use it to show something else, you can show it. And so hearsay is not an absolute bar on being admitted into court. You've got a million exceptions, and then you also have kind of the blanket rule of, if you're not admitting it to prove the truth of the matter asserted in the statement, then you can bring it in. And I don't have a good example of that right offhand. If I'd taken a little bit more time to prepare, I would have that. But I wanted to bring this up not just because of the reference that the Will Sasso Canadian mafia guy makes to hearsay. I wanted to bring it up because it's important as it relates to Lee Paxton. So what do we know about Lee Paxton? We know that he made a statement, some sort of statement, regarding regarding the corpse that he had in his possession that Ava then later stole and attempted to dispose of, and was caught doing so by Mooney. So he has made some sort of statement around having that body in his funeral home, that body disappearing, and then they recovered that body, and he has made a statement saying that that body is the same one as the one that disappeared from his funeral home, which is what implicates Ava in the crime. However, when Boyd beats Paxton into unconsciousness, he makes him unavailable to testify. So you have a statement on the record that he's made to someone else. That statement is now considered to be hearsay. And you can use hearsay when someone is unavailable. But you can only do that if the person who is the antagonist, the party that you're against, if the party that you're against is the person that made that person unable to testify, then you can admit that hearsay. Otherwise, it's not admissible, even if he's in a coma and cannot physically testify at trial